And the other one, we call it SQUAPA, but it's State Water Quality Protection Areas. And those two programs are actually ocean programs. The rest of the programs on this page all involve So I'd like to talk about the post-construction stormwater management standards today. The program, it's open for public comment right now, as I mentioned, through July 6th. And if you have any questions on it, again, feel free to shout them out, but it would be great if we could get anyone who's really interested to submit a comment publicly into the public record down there so that it could be discussed and addressed. What the program involves is, well, what they've done, the state has been actively trying to implement low impact development techniques. I'm going to throw all these words out that won't mean much, but what they're trying to do is get rain into the ground as soon as possible. Low impact development, it's a theory, it's a practice. What you try and do is where the rain falls, if you have a house, what you try and do is create areas in your yard, in lawns and depressions where water can sit there and slowly percolate into the ground so that it gets into the ground and doesn't become runoff. It's a great idea in concept. There are still a lot of questions and concerns about it. It will, if it's effective, reduce the overall volume of runoff that comes off your property that goes into the street. It's going to reduce the size of treatment structures and pipes and everything in the street. It's a good concept. It's never been tackled on as big a scale here in California as we're doing right now, so there's still a lot of concerns about it. Yes?
So I'm going to redo my roof, 3,000 square foot house. Does my life change because of something in here?
No.
Or does the permit process change?
No, my understanding is no, and we'll get into that. But this one is about impervious surface area, which, as I would interpret it and understand it, it's the ground surface. So if you were doing a new house,
so if I was going to resurface the parking lot out here?
If you're going to resurface the parking lot, well, let's get right into it, shall we?
So the building does count, but I think re-roofing is exempt.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Oh, so new construction.
Yeah, if you put in an addition, that would count, but just re-roofing doesn't.
Yeah, an addition would be subject to if it's more than the 2,500 square foot. So, quickly, what the state has done, they've hired a consultant who's come through, they've done a study where they've compiled a whole bunch of information, and they've developed these watershed management zones. So for the whole Central Coast region, there are areas, each one of these areas has a different goal, a different focus for managing stormwater from the sites. Over in Seaside, the ground is really sandy, it's highly permeable, it's easy to get water into it. The intent is to get it, retain it on site, get it into the ground and be done with it. In places like Pacific Grove, where we're talking granite and low bedrock, you can't do that there. So they have other specific design requirements for that I'll get into as we go on here. But this was developed from published information. There's a lot of studies and whatnot that were put into it. The information is available on the website, which I'll give you at the end of the thing today. On the back side of this sheet, it tells you what the differences are between the different, they call them watershed management zones. Just know that that's where all these different requirements have started. That's where they come from. Beginning on the third page here, which actually is labeled page 1 of 10, is where we start to get into the actual guts of the regulation program. There are exemptions. So again, we're targeting impervious surface area. But there are exemptions for maintenance projects. There are exemptions for sidewalks and bicycle paths and curb and gutter replacements. Second story additions that do not increase the building footprint are Raised decks are exempt, photovoltaic systems, solar panels and whatnot are exempt. So there's a number of exemptions. It won't apply to everything, but if you're starting with a new, basically undeveloped site, most of the building, the driveway, the sidewalk is all going to be counted as impervious area.
So if you do a new building, or you do an addition, what kind of responsibility does the homeowner have, or the builder have then, if these things pass?
Let's get into it.
Okay.
What ends up happening is for starting at 2,500 square feet, the requirements are very minor. It's more of a site design and planning requirement to see where you can and how you can implement some of these low impact development standards. You know, put your runoff into a landscape area where it can sit for a few hours and then slowly percolate into the ground. As you step up more and more, there's different thresholds, and each threshold requires more and more to be done for that.
Well, how about something like a larger thing, like a commercial building or something?
Yeah, there's requirements, and I'll touch on those.
Okay.
As we go.
So, and just to add on to that, what we discussed at the meeting about a month ago with the state board was, even though like the lowest tier, if you're doing just 2,500 square feet, which is, you know, a small single-family residence, because it includes your driveway, all your walkways, all your patios, everything else, so it's a small development. That has minor requirements, but you do need to plan for them. You can't just fit them in after you're all done with your design. It doesn't, you have to plan for them up front. And that's very, very important.
Yes.
How far into the state, from the coast into the state, does this, their realm of influence go?
Right now, it's Monterey County, San Benito County, Santa Cruz County, the southern portion of San Mateo County, San Luis Obispo County, and Santa Barbara County. And that's Region 3 of the Central Coast Water Board. That's their jurisdiction.
So in other words, there's such a thing as they establish a line, a measured line, where on one side you're responsible, and on the other side you aren't. Is that the way it goes?
Yes, but it's their jurisdiction. So the state, the whole state of California is divided up into 9 different jurisdictional areas for the Regional Water Board. And the only one that's implementing this is Region 3, which is the Central Coast. So wherever they have jurisdiction, which are those few counties that I mentioned, that's where this will apply. And the other ones, if you went into the Central Valley over there, they don't have this yet. So the state has indicated their intent to roll this out.
You know, the Coastal Zoning Commission had definite lines as
Yes.
to where you were responsible and where you weren't.
There's a definite line, and I believe it has to do with the watershed boundaries, what flows where. And so anything, my understanding, maybe this is better than me, is that anything that flows out through the Central Coast into the Salinas River, Pajaro River, San Lorenzo, you know, all the creeks all the way down, is going to be included in that thing up to the very top of the hill where it starts to flow back east toward the Central Valley.
Does this apply to Southern California area?
Not
Los
now.
Angeles?
No, not now.
But they do have their own parallel permits to ours, but they are different.
They'll have a similar program, in other words.
They either have something in place, I'm unfamiliar with theirs. I'm too familiar with this one.
I mean, I find it hard to believe that LA would be exempt.
Well, they just have a different region.
Yeah, that's what I'm
A different
getting at.
region, and they do have requirements, as does the Bay Area. For doing this sort of thing.
Has there been a cost-benefit analysis